This building is a piece of Michigan history, and it needs your help. It's story time. Before I can tell you what this is, I need to tell you where we are right now, because this might be the most important village in Michigan you've never heard of. Welcome to Calumet, or Calumet. This is a small village in the Upper Peninsula, and although it's quiet today, it was once one of the most important mining towns in the United States, and perhaps the world, because this was the headquarters for the Calumet and Hecla Mining Company. And about 100 years ago, the C&H was the biggest copper producer on Earth. At its peak, they alone were producing more than half of American copper. If you walked the streets of Calumet in 1900, you'd hear languages including Polish, Finnish, Norwegian, Italian, Lebanese, Chinese, and more, courtesy of people who came from all over the world to work the mines. At this time, more than 4,600 people lived in this village that covers less than a quarter of a square mile. That's the same population density as modern-day Manhattan, and another 30,000 people lived within walking distance, which is really impressive considering this region was mostly rugged, snow-blasted wilderness. Although the average mine worker was not wealthy, Calumet as a whole was such a big deal that this little village had streetcars, stores that sold luxury goods, and even an opera house. The Calumet Theater hosted touring Broadway shows and music legends of the time, including John Philip Sousa, who's infamous to me, who grew up playing brass instruments, and might also be famous to you as the composer of the Stars and Stripes Forever. I cannot tell you how big of a contrast this is to Calumet today and to the Upper Peninsula in general. This would be like the Calumet Theater being a stop on the Eras tour. Side note, here I should note that there's this rumor out there that Calumet was once in the running to be the capital of the entire state of Michigan. Unfortunately, for as important as this village was, that's not true. Lansing was decided on as the state capital before Calumet was even officially founded. Here's why I'm talking about all of this, though. The thing about being a mining town is that the fate of this busy, successful village was very much tied to the fate of the C&H. And when the company began to falter, so did Calumet as a whole. By the 1930s, the Great Depression was hitting this region hard. Copper prices and demand were down, and almost 40% of the families in this county received government relief, compared to a state average of 12%. By 1940, the county had lost almost half its population compared to 1910. And although there was a brief mining boom during World War II, this was basically the end of Calumet's heyday, even before the C&H officially closed in 1968. In the words of the National Park Service, by the late 1970s, the once bustling downtown sat deteriorating and silent. This place that had once been as densely populated as Manhattan was quickly and steadily starting to fall apart. The mines giveth and the mines taketh away. And that brings me to this building, the Ruppe Block. This is one of the larger buildings on the main street here, and it used to be a department store owned by P. Ruppe and Sons in a building constructed around 1870. The Ruppes sold groceries, clothing, furniture, and various odds and ends, making this a really important store for the community. Based on census records, it also seems like some people lived here over the years, maybe in the upper floors. Plus, the exterior of this building is stinking beautiful. But that said, the inside of the building is mostly home to a lot of pigeon poop. So why am I talking about it? Because the community is trying to save this beautiful historic building, and they could use your help.
The introduction to this project goes back probably 10 years now. At the behest of our then representative, Scott Dianda, we brought together the stakeholders, Calumet stakeholders. Leah and I organized this thing, so she should have been right up front. But we basically got everybody around the table and, what do we do? Things are going downhill. The government's problematic and there are issues there. And so, but the result of it all is everybody came away with, we can't do anything about the local governance. That's not in our future and in things that we as individuals and as stakeholders can do, but we can work to save buildings. And it was one at a time. So that became our motto, bring back Calumet one building at a time.
And that's been about, I think, 8-9 years now that we've been working together in that fashion, just trying to save our buildings one by one because they're so costly and in such condition that we don't have the capacity financially, people-wise, developer-wise, to do all the buildings we need done.
We've been working at a number of buildings in the downtown and in the neighborhoods nearby. This building, it's been on everyone's radar. It had been acquired after years and years in another person's ownership who we knew had let it go. The current owner did some initial stabilization, but he ended up not in a position to be able to really do what needed to be done. The deterioration that had already occurred was well underway and severe. So he approached us that he was willing to let this building go if somebody could save it.
According to Leah, it would cost some $200,000 to demolish this building if it doesn't collapse on its own first and endanger the structures and the street nearby. So Bring Back Calumet worked to rummage up the money to at least start emergency stabilization of the building. But that's much easier said than done.
Just watch your step, certainly. Obviously, you can see pigeon poop and, like floors that are popping up and stuff.
Oh, man.
You can see the collapse of the mezzanine there.
Oh, yeah.
That dripping is just so bad. And we don't want to see this go down in the middle of our community.
No,
It would be a terrible hole. It could be everything just would probably just fold right in. There is a third floor. Oh yeah, Alexis, you got to come up here and see this. So the current owner, when they bought the building, that was already in real bad condition. And they invested about $200,000, I believe, in stabilization work and trying to get things in better condition. And just ultimately, it was too much, unfortunately.
Now, to be clear, today in 2025, Calumet is not some dilapidated ghost town. A lot of love and care has been put into this community since the 70s, and there are some great businesses here contributing to the local economy. Also, a lot of the village is now included in the Keweenaw National Historical Park, which is part of the National Park System. Basically, it's like a history-centric national park. But even then, the village is still feeling the impact of the end of the copper boom. People and organizations often just don't have the money to maintain these structures. And although there are new industries coming to the region, it seems much more common that people have to leave this place because there isn't enough work. When you see structures like this, it's usually not because of a lack of interest or care for the community. It's a lack of resources. So when I learned that Bring Back Calumet was trying to do something about this, I wanted to learn more because I filmed a lot in this area and I would hate for another piece of its story to be lost just because there wasn't enough of a budget. So I asked Leah to take me around the building and tell me more.
So what we've done up to this point is from down in the basement up to the roof, these supports are, so they're stacked up. It will prevent it from just coming down. So this is a temporary stabilization. Until you totally redo the roof and tear off the back of this building, it's a temporary situation.
Okay.
And I don't know what the number of days, years, months that we have with this temporary stabilization.
Okay.
So we need to raise more money. We need another $200,000 at least to get the roof where we want it so that it's dry. We need to stop the water coming in to where you can feel comfortable going, okay, this building is buttoned up. It's secure, we can hang on to it until we get that developer in place. But that is the next tranche. We're in about 40,000 already just with these materials, and we've hauled out, I think, about 20,000 pounds of debris and stuff out of here already, which is hard to imagine. There's another at least trailer load of things that need to come out. So that's, even though it's 40,000 and it's like, it's a lot of money when you need to come up with it, but it's a really easy amount of money to spend.
Yeah.
And we're working with our legislators, with Greg Markinen,
That's great.
to try and get funding. And I think that may come through, but I think we really need to make an effort in showing local support financially
Yeah.
and otherwise for this project.
Calumet has a tremendous heritage. The unique architecture that came with the people that the mines brought in to build, you know, the sandstone, the brick buildings, the unique cornices, all that. I mean, preserving these old downtowns improves quality of life. And from that, when you hold on to them and you revitalize the space, there's shops and people, again, it improves the quality of life. You know, there is a large base economy in this area and a lot of people.
It's the facade that I really don't want to lose. That's a really unique facade in Calumet. It's so beautiful and huge. It would be so terrible to lose it. We're not making them like this anymore. You're not getting another one, so.
Well, what we need to do, we need to raise, you know, I think about 170,000 on top of what we've raised to complete what we're calling our phase 1 stabilization. Public can get involved. Probably the biggest way they can get involved right now is to donate, to give money to the Save the Ruppe project. We're always looking for volunteers. We've relied on volunteers to do a lot of the interior clean out that's been necessary to open up the space, make it easier for the contractor to work and easier for people to get around. It also, and most importantly, it gets the moisture holding material in there. So the more of that we can get out, the better.
If you're invested in Michigan history or in this series, this is a great opportunity to give back to a community that's made a lot of these videos possible. For the next month, I will be donating any of the advertising revenue this video gets from YouTube to the Save the Ruppe Block project. So if you want to get involved, watching or sharing this with a friend is one way to help. There's a lot to celebrate in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and one thing I don't get to highlight as often is the incredible sense of community and resilience up here. Calumet could have become a ghost town, but thanks to a lot of care, hard work, and some good old-fashioned stubbornness, it persists. And honestly, it gets a little more lovely every time I visit. Thanks for being here. I hope you learned something that makes you think about the world just a little differently, and I'll see you soon.